My name is Bo Kilgore, and this is the Battle Tested Podcast. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of the Battle Tested Podcast. We are kicking off season 1 here, and we're going to be talking about something called the way of the warrior, okay? I have structured this podcast in a way where we can have different seasons and we can have different topics that we focus on because there's some specific things that I want to talk about through each season. But for season 1, the theme of that season is going to be what I'm calling the way of the warrior. And I want to describe or explain what that concept is to you. When you think of the archetype warrior, when you think of a samurai, or when we think of a knight, a noble knight, or even a Spartan, there are certain things about these warriors that transcend their physical ability. You know, the things that these warriors were made famous for, and the reason they're part of our myths and legends is not necessarily because of their physical capabilities on the battlefield, but a lot of times it has to do with their virtue, their values, their character, their integrity. You think about the samurai. The samurai had what is called bushido, which was their code of honor. You think about a knight. His virtue was important. I mean, if he had his virtue questioned or corrupted, he would lose his status or position. You think about Spartans, and it wasn't just their physical ability to fight, it was how disciplined they were and the culture and camaraderie that they shared. And so to live the way of the warrior for you and I, who we're not on a battlefield, maybe there's some people that are actively serving in the military. Myself being a veteran, you know, I spent time in Afghanistan, but I'm not talking so much about the way of the warrior in a physical sense. I'm talking about living the way of the warrior in our everyday life. How can we have these values and this mindset of this warrior class of people, have the resilience, the tenacity of these warriors in our everyday life? How can I live the way of the warrior as a father? How can I live the way of the warrior as a husband? How can I live the way of the warrior on my job, or as a leader, or really just as an individual, my own personal life, the way that I lead myself? How can I live the way of the warrior? What are the benefits of that kind of lifestyle? What's the benefit of having this warrior mindset? It's about having a fighting spirit. It's about having a heart to serve others. It's about having a resilient mindset. That's the difference. You know, there's a quote from this ancient philosopher. His name is Heraclitus. And this is the quote: out of 100 men that go to war, he says, 10 of them should not even be there. 80 of them are just targets. 9 of them are the real fighters. And he says, thank goodness for the 9 real fighters. They're the ones that make the battle. But he finishes the quote by saying this: there's the one among that group. He's the warrior, and he makes all the difference. He's the one that's going to make sure everybody else gets back. And I think about that quote and kind of evaluate my own life. I think at times I have lived my life like one of those 10 men that shouldn't even be there. I lived my life like someone who was unprepared. I lived my life like someone who was undisciplined, who was not ready to face a certain challenge or a certain obstacle, and I just had no place or no right to be in a situation that I was in. And then I've lived my life as one of the 80 targets. I have had times in my life where I just existed, where I coasted by, where I did the bare minimum, where I looked for the easy way out, where I didn't push myself or challenge myself, and really brought nothing to the table for others. And then I think there are times in my life where I lived like one of those 9 fighters, like one of those people that showed up, that did their job, that knew exactly what to do, that was able to encounter challenges and adversity and obstacles and handle them appropriately. But my goal is not to live like one of the 10 that shouldn't be there. My goal is not to be like one of the 80 who's just a target, who's just existing. And really, my goal is not even to be like one of the 9 fighters. I want to be the warrior. I want to be a person that can go into any situation and make the difference for others. I want to be the kind of person that's leading myself in a way where my integrity is unquestionable, my work ethic is seen, where I can overcome difficulties with resiliency and tenacity, and really obstacles just turn into stepping stones for me. I want to be that kind of person that can go into a difficult situation and make all the difference for somebody else. I want to be the warrior. And I would venture to say that that's how most people feel. And maybe you can do the same thing. Maybe you can look at a quote like that or an idea like that and think, you know what, most of the time I'm one of those 10 men that shouldn't be there. Most of the time, because of the way I'm living my life right now, because of these bad habits that I've developed, or because of the way I've neglected my physical health, or because of the way I haven't succeeded or finished my goals yet. Yeah, I am constantly the person that feels underprepared, underqualified, the person that's not ready to meet these challenges. Or maybe you feel like you're coasting right now. Whatever situation you might be in, I would say the goal for you and your deepest desires, if you were being honest with yourself, you would say, yes, the goal is I want to be like that warrior. I want to be the person that others can rely on. I want to be that person that can step into any situation and make a difference for others. I want to be an agent of change. I want to be someone that can bring peace into chaos. I want to be someone who can bring strength to others when they're going through difficult times. And I just want to lead myself well. I've got some things going on in my life that I know aren't healthy. I'm ready to lead myself out of those things. It's going to take the mindset of a warrior. It's going to take living the way of the warrior. And you think about those things that set those ancient warriors apart, that cause us to look at them in our different in the legends and myths around the world. It's the integrity they possessed. It's their character, their virtues, their honor, their loyalty, their service, the way they would control their emotions, the way that they would master their body. And the challenge for you and I is this, that those things I'm talking about, those traits that would set us apart, those characteristics of the warrior that we want to possess, that we want to live by, they don't come naturally to us. They don't come naturally, nor do they come easy. I think a lot of times it's actually the other way around. Our natural inclination is to drift towards the things that are easier. Our natural inclination is to drift towards comfort and apathy and complacency. And we're looking for the comfortable thing to do. We're looking for the easy thing to do. And it's not natural for us to have these types of characteristics. So how can we then channel some kind of strength or some kind of willpower within us to achieve this or to attain these kinds of values? I think it comes down to what I'm calling divine order in your life. I think to live the way of the warrior, you have to have divine order in your life, meaning you have to properly align your life. You have to properly align every aspect of who you are. So let me explain this idea. And maybe this is going to be the first time you have heard something like this, a concept like this. Of course, I'm a Christian, and so my worldview and my belief system is a Christian one, and it's a biblically based one. But this is what I believe about a human being, about you and I, is that there are 3 aspects to who we are. Me as a person, there's 3 aspects of who I am that together, all 3 of them interconnected, form me as an individual. That I am not truly myself without one of these aspects. And that is that I have a spirit. I have an eternal spirit that is the reason I have consciousness. The eternal spirit is what sets me apart from the rest of creation or the rest of nature. I have an eternal spirit that allows me to have a sense of purpose, that my life was meant for more than what I might be living in the moment. It's what gives me the capacity to have a real and intimate relationship with the creator of the universe, with the one that created me with the purpose. It's that eternal part of me, that spirit that God gave me that allows me to connect with him and know him and be connected to the purpose that he created me for. So I have an eternal spirit. I also have a soul. Now, your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. A lot of times in the Bible, it's called the heart. It's referred to as the heart. So we have our mind, we have our will and our emotions, and then we have our physical bodies. Our physical bodies is what gives us our base desires. It's what has primal instincts. It's what needs things like food and water and sleep. It's what craves things like sex and pleasure and comfort. So what does it mean to live with a divine order in your life? It means having your spirit, soul, and body properly aligned. This is what I believe. For you to have true divine order, for you to live in divine order, so that you can have this mindset of a warrior, live the way of the warrior, is that you have to have a higher authority that you're submitted to. There has got to be something in your life that is setting your values, that is setting your morals, and really just setting the direction of your life. Like a higher authority you're submitted to, that's the goal. Like, I'm living according to this set of laws. And yes, I might make mistakes every now and then. Yes, I'm not going to be perfect and I'm going to veer off course, but I always have something that's going to reorient my life. I always have something that when it gets a little off track, I can reset and say, okay, no, this is the order of my life. These are the things I am submitted to and committed to. These are the values that I'm going to live by, that I will not compromise. So for me, the higher authority that I'm submitted to is God. I am submitted to God and his way of living. And no, I don't get it right all the time, but I strive to get it right. I don't get it right all the time, and I make mistakes, but I always know where to come back to. And it's God as my higher authority that I'm submitted to that is guiding me. That's where my purpose comes from. That's where my fulfillment comes from. That's what guides and directs my steps. That's what informs me on what kind of decisions I should make in difficult circumstances. I don't rule myself. I don't do the things that I want. I don't do the things that I would prefer or what would be easy for me. I have a set of values that I'm living by and a lifestyle that I'm living according to the higher authority that I'm submitted to. And the values that God gives me is things like love and peace and patience and kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, serving others. It's what allows my life to be more about others than myself. That's really what it comes down to, is if you're submitted to a higher purpose, your life's it's not just about you. If you're living for yourself, you're going to be out of order. I can tell you that. But if you have a higher authority that you're submitted to, and look, maybe you're not Christian, maybe you would be hesitant even to start aligning your life with God. Start somewhere. Maybe the first question you should ask yourself is, okay, well, what is it that is guiding me as a person? What are the higher values that I am committed to? What are the guiding principles of my life that when things get difficult, I can turn to and lean on? You should develop something if you don't have anything. Of course, I would encourage you to explore the Bible and Christian faith, but you need something. Because when you encounter difficult situations, you know where you're going to be tested, you're going to be tested up here in your mind. Your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. And you're going to encounter situations that are going to wreck your emotions. You're going to experience things, and I've experienced things, that hurt so deeply that it could send me in a spiral of depression and sadness or anger for weeks, months, even years of your life. It can cause you to develop unhealthy thought patterns. It can cause you to develop unhealthy habits of coping if you don't have your soul, your mind, your will, and your emotions submitted to your spirit. This is divine order we're talking about, aligning your life the way that it should be aligned. You know, I've experienced those situations. I've had injustice done to me and in a moment reacted in anger. But that anger stayed with me and caused me to continue acting out a certain way or behaving a certain way until my body then became trained to be controlled by that emotion. I've had situations where I did not develop willpower the way that I should. Willpower to exercise. Willpower to eat the right way. Willpower to refrain from certain things. And I've become a slave to those things. I've had different things happen to me in my life that could cause negative thoughts. And it's so easy to fall into a pit of negative self-talk. Not good enough. So stupid. You wish I could have done it this way. If I could go back, this is how I would do it. And it's just this constant thought patterns that lead to a miserable life. So you have to bring your mind, your will, and emotions into submission. And the last part is your body, living with your flesh, your physical body under control. This is who I am, this body. This is part of my identity. This is not a prison. This flesh that I am in is not a prison or a meat suit or something that I'm going to escape one day. In the Bible, when God created Adam, when he created Adam and Eve, before sin, he had given them physical bodies. And when you study Scripture, it says when Jesus returns, he's bringing heaven to earth, and we're going to have physical bodies. This is part of God's design. He always intended for me to have a physical body where I could do his work in the world. So I should treat my body the right way. I should understand that my physical body and my physical life and my physical health is actually spiritual. It's actually connected to my spiritual well-being and my spiritual health. I think a lot of times, especially Christians, I'm not sure about other faiths, but I think Christians can have this view that, well, one day this body's going to decay and I'm going to go to heaven and I'm going to float around and play the harp on a bunch of clouds and just enjoy a big party. I hate to burst your bubble if that's what you've been taught or led to believe. That's not what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches that even when Christ returns and brings heaven to earth, you're going to have a physical body and you're going to have a job and you're going to have some hard work that God gifted us with. It's a gift. It's a privilege to do this work, to do God's work on the earth that requires a physical body. So because my body is part of my being, I've got to treat it the right way. I've got to take care of it. I've got to have some semblance of health and exercise. And, you don't have to be a fanatic. You don't have to be a fanatic in the gym or do something extreme in your dieting, but you should be conscious of those things and how it's affecting your health because it feeds the rest of your being. It's going to affect your soul. It's going to affect your mind, will, and emotions. Your physical health will affect those things. It will affect your spiritual condition. But when you live with divine order, you are submitted to a higher authority than yourself that is guiding your values, your morals, and the code of honor that you live by. You submit your mind, your will, and your emotions to that higher authority. And you force your body, you master your body to follow suit. And That kind of divine order is what allows you to live the way of the warrior. It's what allows you to face adversity and have the discipline and the resolve and the knowledge and the ability to encounter those things and overcome those things, having this divine order. And the challenge, like I said, the challenge is that it doesn't come natural. It doesn't come easy. If anything, things are out of order. And why is that? Why is it that our natural inclinations can be towards unhealthy things, or towards easy things, or towards comfortable things? You know, it's common in cultures around the world. You study this aspect of humanity that you know, in certain philosophies it's known as a duality, that in all of the universe, when the universe came into existence, there was this duality of good and evil. And good and evil they're always struggling. There's order and there's chaos, and there's always this eternal struggle. That philosophy even goes down into mankind, the belief that I have a good side and I have an evil side, and they're at war within me. I'm sure we've all heard the story that comes from Native Americans about the two wolves inside of me, an evil one and a good one, and well, which one's going to win? Whichever one you feed more. In Chinese philosophy, it's called sha-qi, which is negative energy. This belief that there is some kind of negative force or negative energy in the universe that is trying to destroy me or corrupt me. And regardless of what your background is, regardless of what your faith is, or even if you don't have any faith, I know that you will agree with me that we can look around the world and see that's very true. We can look around the world and see the chaos and see the injustice and see the violence. Shoot, I can look at my own life. I can look at the thoughts I struggle with. I can look at the habits that I have to get out of. I can look at the comfort that I drift towards, or even the evil that I drift towards, the anger that I drift towards. It's apparent. You just look at your life, look at the world around you, and you will agree, yes, there is some kind of unseen darkness that is seeking to corrupt men. There is this unseen force at work in the world that is causing evil and wickedness and injustice and violence and sickness. And I would call it sin. I would call it sin, and I know that's like a Bible word, a religious word, but this is where I think religion has gone wrong with the way that it teaches sin or talks about sin all the time. You know, sin is not just the bad things you do. Sin and the effects of sin in my life is not just the bad thoughts I have. It's not just the bad words that I say, and it's not just those bad things that I do. The effects of sin in my life a lot of times show up much more subtly and insidiously than that. Because the effects of sin is what holds me back. Sin is what causes a failure to act. Sin is what causes me, it's what causes a failure to do the right thing in certain situations. Sin is what causes complacency in my life. You know, these things, they're not inherently evil. I'm not doing anything evil necessarily. I'm not thinking anything evil. But sin also just causes an apathetic lifestyle, a lack of self-discipline. Sin holds us back from living our full potential. So regardless of what your worldview is and what your belief system is, whether you want to call it sin or negative energy or sha-qi or whatever it is, the truth is, I think is just, it's obvious to everyone, is yes, there is this unseen force that pulls at me, that sways me, that tempts me, that influences me, that can corrupt me. And it's holding you back from living the life that you were created to live. It's holding you back from living out your purpose. It's holding you back from living to your full potential. So call it what you want, but you need to acknowledge it. And the reason that we need to live with divine order is because there is this unseen darkness that is trying to throw our lives into chaos. A warrior will master that. A warrior will understand that and order his life in a way to combat that darkness. That's why you have to have the mindset of a warrior. That's why we're even going to be talking about living the way of the warrior for season 1 of this podcast, is because we want to combat that darkness. We want to combat that sin or that chaos or that corruption that would creep into our lives and cause apathy and complacency and cause a lack of integrity that would cause a lack of purpose and fulfillment in our lives. We want to combat that. So how can you practically bring about divine order in your life? What is it? I've told you about the challenge. Hey, it's not easy to live with the way of the warrior. I've showed you which direction you can take to grow, and that is bringing some divine order into your life. Now, practically, what does that look like? Practically, how can I start bringing the proper alignment into my life? I would say the first thing, the most important thing for you is to have that spiritual awakening, if you will. Maybe you are somebody that already has a faith, but if you're not, or maybe you're not sure what you believe, or that part of you is still dormant, you need to understand that there is a spiritual aspect, an eternal aspect of your being that desires to know, what am I here for? Why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? How can I make my life about making a difference in the world around me? We all have these desires. People have been asking those questions for centuries. Human beings have been asking, what am I here for? What's my purpose? The answer is when you have the spiritual awakening and you are connected to the higher authority that put us here in the first place. That's my belief. So how can you start living with divine order? Activate that faith. Start exploring it. Maybe you have questions. Maybe it's hard for you to believe some of this stuff. Well, you should at least start exploring. You should at least start orienting your life towards a higher purpose. The second thing I would say, if you want to start living with some divine order, once you have that spiritual awakening, once you wake that part up that might be dormant inside of you, the second thing I would say is evaluate your current physical health. And this is not, I'm not talking about setting any kind of unrealistic goals or, like I said earlier, becoming some kind of fanatic. But I think you need to just do an evaluation of your physical health and how you have been treating your physical body. What is your diet like? What is your activity level like? And this isn't about shaming anyone or anything like that, but it is my desire is to bring an awareness to you that the way you're treating your physical body has a lot to do with the way you're going to process emotions and just also your spiritual life, how you're going to feel connected to a purpose. Your physical health is important. So maybe you do need to make some changes. Maybe there needs to be something changed in your diet. Maybe there needs to be something changed in exercise, even if it's just going for a walk. It might just be that once a day you need to get out of your office or out of your home and just get into the sunlight, get some vitamin D. That could start helping your physical health or just helping this physical aspect of your being. Another thing I would say to start living with divine order is try serving others. Try serving others. I think quickly when you make your life about more than just yourself and you become conscious of the needs of others around you, it's going to help you feel connected to your purpose. It's at least going to give you some direction. That spiritual side of you is going to start awakening and saying, yeah, hey, this feels good. It feels good when I'm going out of my way to serve others. It feels good. I know it's an inconvenience for me and my preferences, but for some reason, whenever I go and serve others, it's very rewarding and fulfilling. So look for ways to serve others. It can be as easy as looking even in your own family. What are ways that you can serve your wife? Wives, what's the way I can serve my husband? What are the ways I can... Where's the way I can serve my parents or my brother or sister, whatever it might be? What's a way I can start serving my friends? And here's an easy one. If you're looking for a community to serve in, join a church. Join a church, become part of that local community where every week you're going to have an opportunity to serve somebody. Look in your community. Look in and see if there's any organizations that are looking for volunteers. Go help pass out food. Go help to pass out clothes to people in need, or serve people in need even in your local community. Start serving others. It's going to help you bring about divine order in your life. Seek out some mentors. Seek out some mentors that you will give permission to speak into your life and even tell you hard truths. Because a lot of times, well, this is what the Bible says about our heart, which is, I would say, is our soul, our mind, our will, and emotions. The Bible says our heart is deceitfully wicked above all things. So I can lie to myself. I can lie to myself and I can fool myself, and I can, if it's just left up to me and what I see and what I want, then I could wind up living a very selfish, prideful lifestyle and have a lot of blind spots unless I have some people in my life that I trust, that I allow to speak into my life and tell me some hard things. You know, some people that can come into your life and say, hey, you're being a freaking idiot right now. You're saying some really stupid things right now. Hey, the way that you just spoke to your wife was very dishonoring. Hey, the way that you are working right now, you're not really carrying your weight. You're not really pulling your weight here. You know, let some people speak into your life. Let some people speak even into your daily disciplines. Like, I have a group of friends that we try to hold each other accountable. It's like, did you go to the gym today? Well, no. Okay, were you going tomorrow? And, we'll pick at each other a little bit, but it's all in a spirit of accountability. And it's all in a spirit where we're trying to help hold each other to a standard where we can become better, where we can continue to grow. And I would say that's another thing for divine order. Have an appetite for growth. Have a desire to grow in your knowledge and in your understanding. Like, what's next for you? If you have a career, what's next? What do you need to learn? What do you need to do to get to that next level wherever you're at? Is it more school? Is it more training? Is it just personal development, personal growth, leadership development? Whatever it is, have a desire for continual growth, and that also helps bring about divine order. There might be some habits that you have right now. Your body may have become accustomed to a certain routine. Your body might have become accustomed to certain things that you eat, certain things that you watch, certain things that you listen to, which will also cause you to think about certain things. So maybe there's some things there that need to change. Physically, maybe there's a new discipline you need to learn. Even in our brains form neural pathways, not just off of habits that we do. I mean, have you ever driven to work and wondered, or driven home from work and wondered, how did I get here? Because you just spaced out the whole time. It's because you have driven that path so frequently, it has developed such a deep neural pathway in your brain that literally you can do it without thinking about it. And your brain also forms neural pathways for those negative thoughts. If you're constantly every day thinking, I'm a failure, I'm an idiot, I'm so stupid, you're training your physical brain to continue thinking that way. So there might be some hard work involved in changing some of these habits physically. Might mean you have to control your emotions and keep your emotions in check. But those are some practical ways that you can start bringing about divine order in your life so that you can live the way of the warrior. This is my plan for you. For the rest of this season, we're going to have guests on, and we're going to discover, or we're going to talk about these different topics that would help us live the way of the warrior. We're going to talk about things like doubt. We're going to talk about things like the battle in our minds and those neural pathways I just talked about. I've got a guest joining us who's a neurologist, incredible doctor, that's going to help talk to us about our brains and how we can unlearn some of those unhealthy things. We're going to talk about discipline. We're going to talk about spiritual discipline and just daily discipline. An incredible man's joining me for that discussion. He's a pastor, a leader, former special forces soldier, We're going to talk about courage. We're going to talk about patience. We're going to talk about humility. We're going to talk about wisdom. And all of these subjects, various subjects that we're talking about, I've got incredible people joining me. They're experts in their field. They exemplify the way of the warrior, in my opinion. These people that I've invited on, the purpose for me inviting them is because they have showed me and exemplified to me that they have resolve, that they have resilience, and that they have overcome these certain struggles that we all deal with. And I want them to share their story with you. I want them to share their expertise with you. But most importantly, I also want them to give you some practical tools. That's a goal that I have. I don't want this to be a podcast where you join in and just hear stories. Stories are great. Stories inspire us. But I want to give you some practical tools where every episode you're taking away some strategies that you can start implementing in your life. Like the things I just shared with you about exploring your faith or developing some physical disciplines, getting some mentors in your life. Like those are some actionable items that you can start doing in your life today. So every episode I'm going to introduce a topic that's a challenge for you and I. I'm going to then show us how we can grow and leave that challenge or overcome that challenge. And I'm going to give you practical tools for how to do it. Now, the way that you can really engage in content like this, the way that you can really take advantage of all the conversations that we're going to have and how you can start implementing these things in your life to live the way of the warrior, to become a battle-tested person, is by joining our Patreon. If you join the Patreon, the link is in the description below. But if you join our Patreon, it's $5 a month, and it gives you access to very unique interactions and conversations that we're having from the whole community. I'll be on there every week introducing a topic, unpacking different ways that I've wrestled with this certain topic and the strategies that I've implemented. And so it will be a unique way for you to join with others and talk about these things and hear what other people are putting into effect in their life or things that people have gone through. And I think that would benefit you very much. Also on the Patreon, of course, you'll get some exclusive content, some behind the scenes stuff and bonus episodes, things like that. But I think the most unique thing that's going to come from the Patreon is the interaction that you and I can have and the interaction that we can all have together as we go on this journey of becoming battle-tested individuals. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope that as I talked about divine order, that maybe you started to become aware of some things, and I hope I've challenged you. So whatever your situation is right now, whatever you're currently going through, or whatever has brought you into checking this podcast out, I hope that I've somehow helped you along the way in your journey. And I hope to see you next time here on the Battle Tested Podcast. So until then, keep fighting and keep building.